Hey everybody, AJ here. This movie, American Drive-In, surprisingly touches on themes of sexual assault, so if that's going to bother you, skip this week's episode and we'll see you next time. On with the show! Hello, and welcome to Creating Canon, with your hosts, AJ Hamilton and Nick Pappas. Oh, did I do it again?
We're like...
Did I do it again?
Yes. You know how many episodes we're in? You'd think you'd understand this by now.
And NCP!
Yeah, you know me. It's cut.
Perfect.
It's a wrap. I think that's the whole episode.
That's pretty much all that needs to be said.
So that we don't have to subject people to what is about to happen.
Hey, Nick, what did we force ourselves to watch today?
Oh my god. So this just is like down the rabbit hole of idiocy.
Yeah.
In that, so last week we watched Hard Rock Zombies.
Right.
Which was a canon film.
That's right.
This week we are introducing a new element to the podcast. It all started because we were talking about this idea last week of, if you remember, Hard Rock Zombies was actually the movie within a movie of a movie called American Drive-In. American Drive-In was not a canon film, even though they were shot at the same time.
So weird.
Same director, same writer,
people. Yeah.
same people. And we decided that, it would be fun to do American Drive-In.
For context.
For context, yeah. Well, I think...
Or reverse context?
Reverse? Yeah, well, it's actually really interesting because I feel like this movie answered a lot about our biggest questions about Hard Rock Zombies.
Yeah, it really did. Like, connecting dots, definitely.
Yeah, and I feel like this is going to be a thing that happens several times, is that just based off of what Canon did, we are going to need to watch movies that are not Canon movies.
Well, Canon is related in some way to a lot of different projects.
Exactly. So, like, a good one is Death Wish, right? Canon did not do the original Death Wish, but they did the 4 sequels.
Yes.
So, in order to put the 4 sequels into context, we would have to watch Death Wish, right?
Naturally.
And then also, there's a movie called Lemon Popsicle, which was remade as Last American Virgin. Lemon Popsicle was not canon. Last American Virgin was.
Although it was directed by...
Boaz Davidson.
Right?
But it was... Lemon Popsicle was...
produced by the
Golden Globes.
Go-Go Boys, right?
Yeah, the Go-Go Boys. And then there's all the 21st century films that...
they made afterwards.
Yeah, that Golan made without Globus.
Right.
That we would like to talk about all of these things.
Sure. It's in the spirit.
It's in the spirit of canon. But it does not technically count as creating canon, even though our first episode, Captain America...
that was a reach.
That was actually a reach, because that's a 21st century film.
And to be fair to you, that was your bait to get me into this project.
That absolutely was my bait.
Yeah.
That was, I dangled the carrot so you would go in. So today we are introducing an official title for these kinds of episodes.
That's right.
Canon-adjacent episodes.
Yes.
And these episodes will be called...
Canon...
Oh, drum! I was waiting for a drum roll. These episodes will be called... Are we going to do it together? God damn it. Cannon Fodder! Yeah, so these...
Was that worth the wait?
That was... No, not for me, it wasn't. So we're going to start this new series called Cannon Fodder. These episodes will be put directly into our regular Creating Canon feed.
Yes.
They will just have a little tag on there that says, Creating Canon episode whatever, Cannon Fodder episode 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, we don't want to lie to people.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's important that we understand contextually where we are.
Yeah. And you will realize that it's not for those of you, those Canon fans, you will realize immediately, you're like, yeah, they didn't do that one.
Those liars. Not us, not the fans.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We will say, oh, those nitpicky bastards.
I will not say that.
You won't?
No.
Okay.
No, I won't say that.
Okay. Well, you're not the one who handles the fan mail.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, yeah.
Or the hate mail.
The hate mail.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have a couple of other, AJ and I have discussed this, a few fun canon-related...
Canon-adjacent, as you said.
Canon-adjacent kind of things that we'll discuss over time.
But that'll be fun surprises.
It'll be in the fun future.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, again, just to be clear, we did this movie called American Drive-In.
Right.
And to just recap for a second...
Hey, Nick, tell us what it's about.
All right, Here we go.
And do it in your best trailer voice, because this is absolutely apropos.
This is actually, it's funny, is the plot that I wrote for this isn't like a trailer voice plot.
Oh.
It's like a kids' TV commercial plot. Or voice. You ready?
That's so inappropriate. I love it.
Hey, kids, do you like movies?
Yeah.
Do you like making fun of fat people?
Yeah.
How about rape and forced fellatio? Old ladies doing drugs?
Sure.
Did you like American Graffiti but think it needed more fat people, rape, forced fellatio, and odd tonal shifts?
That's a weird question.
Try American Drive-In.
This movie is probably one of the most bizarre movies I've ever seen, for the simple fact that it really doesn't know what tone it's going for from minute to minute, and it never gives you a chance to settle down.
No, not at all. And to be clear, the reason we are doing this movie is because the whole movie takes place at a drive-in.
Yes.
And the movie that the people in the drive-in are watching is Hard Rock Zombies.
Yes, 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
Yeah.
And what happened was they shot about 20 to 30 minutes of Hard Rock Zombies while they were making American Drive-In, and they thought, you know what, fuck it. Why don't we just go ahead and make
stitch those scenes together,
right? And then make a longer movie. And that's Hard Rock Zombies, which then Cannon picked up.
Yeah, that makes so much sense now.
Yeah, because before we even get into American Drive-In, I thought it was interesting how this contextualized a lot of the weird stuff in Hard Rock Zombies.
Yeah.
Right? There's those incredibly long scenes in Hard Rock Zombies of just songs and, like, dancing.
Yeah, the
and,
montages.
The montage.
Yeah.
There's, like, 5 of them in Hard Rock Zombies that make no sense.
Well, there's a 6-minute musical number at one point.
Yeah, and it's just the band.
Yeah,
and people running around.
And they cut that up, and they throw it up on the screen in this movie.
Yeah, and then there's... And in this movie, too, I see how they needed those... Because remember, we had actually made the erroneous assumption that the montages were filler so they can get to a full length. And what it actually turns out is all they really shot were those montages. Because what they needed was a song in the movie that they were watching, which was Hard Rock Zombies. I am so confused by so many things as I'm describing this.
He's trying, folks.
I know. So they needed a song in American Drive-In that shared...
thematic tone.
Right. With the movie Hard Rock Zombies, that we could cut to the screen of Hard Rock Zombies while that song was playing, and then thematically that song informed us for what was happening in American Drive-In.
Kind of?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
There were a couple of times where that happened.
Yeah. I think this movie has notes of brilliance to it, actually.
Yes.
I just want to say, some of the tying together of the scenes from one car to the next is... maybe low-hanging fruit, but it felt clever to me. It's from time to time.
Yeah.
There were certain times where somebody would say one thing. It felt to me, I don't know if you've watched Archer, but every once in a while there will be a scene that ends with one line or one word, and the next scene will start with the exact same word. It's really a fun way to keep the momentum of the show going.
Well, yeah, because there was one moment where the guy in Hard Rock Zombies had his head chopped off, and the woman was like, oh my god, it's a head. And then they cut to the old ladies in the car, and they're like, what did she say? It's a head. And then they would cut to the scene with the guy trying to, like, force fellatio on his girlfriend.
Yes.
And he'd be like, give me head. Yeah. And then we'd cut back to the movie of, like, you can't bring that head in here. And it was
so
uncomfortable, to be clear, because of the
pressure to have sex.
Yeah. But I see where you're going with it. We should actually say, too, that this movie... because we're talking about it as a movie, and it's not really a movie as much as it is a series of vignettes in different cars that sometimes overlap and stitch together. But then there are some vignettes that have nothing to do with anything
They're
else.
just something to either pad the time or cut to.
Yeah.
I made a list of all of the different groups of people.
Holy shit, this is going to be such a long list.
And this is... so usually, what would you say an average movie has for main characters or side characters that we focus on throughout the movie?
Look,
on average,
I think at most you can have 2 main characters that we can truly track, and then maybe like 3 or 4 side characters.
Sure.
Where I would say that they're like strong co-leads.
Right. there are the rare movies like
Magnolia, perhaps?
Magnolia, Love Actually,
Boogie Nights.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
Where you can kind of like push out, but I think you can have at most like 6 or 7 people that we can truly track.
Exactly.
And then throughout there are people who just pop up in
right,
those
yeah,
lives.
cashiers and different things, yeah. So here we go. We start with the couple, Bobby Ann and Jack, and they're sort of our main characters. Then there is the gang, which, for lack of a better word, we're going to call them beaver hunters.
Yeah, the Beaver Rape Squadron is I think what I wrote.
Pretty much. And we meet most of these people either on the road or going through the drive-in ticket booth. And the ticket booth lady is my favorite character in this movie, I think.
Loved her, actually. She looked like an older Elizabeth Moss.
She did.
She looked like an older Midwest Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to say that.
No, that's perfectly appropriate. So, obviously, we've met our main characters and our antagonists. Then, all right, just going down it.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. My
fine.
favorite line, because the way we are introduced to our main characters is they're just driving down the road.
Yes.
And the guy keeps looking at the girl while he's driving. She's like, "Why are you looking at me? Why are you looking at me? Why are you looking at me?" They drive past this group of guys in cars, and like they just see her through the window, and they're like, "Oh my God.
Gotta have that.
We gotta go rape her," which is like basically what they say.
That's the storyline.
That's really the storyline, like the thread of this.
Yeah.
And like they chase her down. There is a great line though where like the main bad guy, who they call Sarge, is like screaming at her like, "I want to get in your pants. I want to get in your pants."
Yeah.
And she says, "There's no way that you can get into my jeans. There's not enough room. There's one asshole in here already." Which I was like, I thought that was a funny.
It's
That was
very
a
good.
truly funny line.
Yeah.
Until we get to the point where they actually assault her.
Yeah.
And then that line and nothing else about this movie is funny.
Oh, God, no. And yet, it's all framed around old people jokes and fat people jokes and all these, and making out and doing...
And then there'd be, like, horrible assault. And, and, like, it would be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then it would cut to, like, a laugh line that's not about the assault. Like, that was
No.
The assault was never funny.
It was like 2 or 3 or 4 different movies going on at the same time.
Well, actually, sorry to interrupt your list because it's probably more like 19 movies.
Yeah,
I had to guess.
exactly.
So
here we go.
All right, ready?
All right. There's the gay fellows.
Okay, wait. So we have our lead couple, which is 1.
Lead couple, the gang.
That's 2.
Right. The gay guy is the one watching the bowling.
Yep, that's 3.
Right. There is the... I don't think we ever cut back to them, but the truck hicks. Do you remember those guys?
4.
They look like
we never do.
brothers.
You're right.
The Fat Family,
5.
which they are labeled in the credits as Fat Al, Fat whatever, Fat Carol.
Fat Sue.
Stupid. The Cop Family, or what was he? He was a reporter.
No, he was a
what was
city
he?
councilman who wanted to become mayor.
Okay, the city councilman and his 2 kids.
That's 6, Rat?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, they're the wonderful old ladies.
7.
Who include Ellen Abernathy Dow, who was Abernathy?
Albertini. Ellen Albertini Dow.
Right. Who was the rapping granny from Wedding Singer.
Yeah, she was also in Wedding Crashers.
Right.
Like, she's one of those older women. This was actually her first film.
First movie.
85.
Yeah.
She was
70-ish?
70-something.
Right.
She died at 101 very recently, actually.
2015, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she did over 100 movies from 85 to 2015.
Awesome.
It's also interesting to start thinking about, like, if you think you're too old to, like, get into this business, she got in at 70 and did over 100 fucking films.
Keep at your dream, folks.
Seriously, Ellen Albertini Dow is one of those people who she might not have ever become legendary as a film star, so to speak, but
she was known.
She
was in people's hearts.
Yeah, and she is legendary for what she did. Like,
absolutely.
So much respect for that woman.
Yeah. Next one was also another one of my favorite characters, Rocky Magellan.
Yes, number 8, who was, oh God, this movie, this guy was so meta and so interesting because his character, this was one of the few actors who was in this movie and Hard Rock Zombies.
Yes.
And his character in this movie was an actor watching his performance in Hard Rock Zombies. It was so meta and awesome.
Need we say more?
Well, I do want to say more because I could talk about him all day.
Also, it starts with... Yeah.
His introduction.
His introduction is actually a really cool way to explain sort of who he is. because he's writing his ninth letter
to his
agent about how he couldn't get him into Return of the Jedi.
Sorry, Revenge of the Jedi.
Revenge of the Jedi,
this
right?
Is the amazing part.
That's right. He calls it Jedi.
Yeah.
And he said George hired all of the midgets
on the West
Coast.
But you couldn't get me in.
Ugh.
And then he also follows it up with, and I keep getting fan letters for my work in Hard Rock Zombies. Which is also an interesting thing, too, because we take a step back.
Yeah.
And he's actually in Return... Like, that actor is in Return of the Jedi as an Ewok.
Right.
Like, that's the actual funny part, too, is... Like, it becomes so fucking meta.
Yeah.
I loved everything about his storyline.
I did, too. I think if this had been snipped down or streamlined in some way, that guy's got to stay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So
okay,
that's 8.
8. Well, actually, couple.
9.
I loved that dude.
I did too. He was the movie critic, and everything was like, seeing societally, blah, 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 blah.
And the girl just wanted to make out.
The girl just wanted to make out in the car.
But she was super smart also.
Yeah.
Then the googly-eyed fellow who, the super fan, and his 5 friends.
Oh, wait, that was the same guy as the super fan?
Yes.
I couldn't. So that's 10.
Yep.
He had seen the movie numerous times and was just shouting out all the lines as they were happening. Fuck.
That was such a weird thing to keep jumping back to. And then there was a really meta moment. Do you remember when the guy is fighting on his hood and he yells out, "Get off of me, jerk," or something like that?
Yes, the super fan yells, "Get off of me, jerk."
And then right afterwards, they yell, Get off of me, jerk.
So he started predicting real life like he had seen it in a movie.
That was actually hilarious.
This whole movie was just, I can't even handle it.
Then there's the BJ couple.
Yep, that's 11.
Then there's the prostitute.
That's 12.
The makeout couple in the Porsche that it's too small for them.
That's right, that's 13.
The old man watching the couple in the Porsche.
Which is 14.
The kids.
Which is 15.
The projectionist.
16.
The guy having van sex with the daughter of the councilman.
So that's 17?
Yep. The recording dude.
Who just...
The audio dude.
Came out of no... It's 18.
Yep. And
I have a lot to say about him.
Oh, and the creep and the nice woman in the concession stand.
19.
And Elizabeth Moss.
20.
Yeah.
Wasn't there another woman in the concession stand too? Or was that the same one?
No,
with
I
the
think
creep?
that was the one who didn't like the creep.
Okay, so there's
and then she came back out
20
and talked
people.
20 groups of people.
20 groups of people. And they do, again, they start mingling, but like...
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of.
I mean, sometimes, like the old man and the couple making out...
Yeah. Like,
never cross over.
Never
actually... The councilman finally goes to the old ladies.
Right. And then he goes over to the hooker.
Yeah.
And the reason we're using hooker instead of sex worker
because she's literally labeled
titled
as... Yes.
In the film.
Yeah, man. This until about... Because we checked the time at 45 minutes... And I had wanted to check the time at 30.
And I honestly thought at 45 minutes, I was like, oh my God, thank God we've got to be like 10 minutes from the end.
Yeah, because this movie, until the assault, felt like the most meandering thing.
Yeah.
I thought it was just going to be a bunch of vignettes and a bunch of weird stuff. I really did not expect nearly the explosive ending that we got.
Yeah. Well, because at first it seemed set up to be in the tradition of like Amazon Women on the Moon or Kentucky Fried Women.
Okay.
I'm sorry, not Kentucky Fried Women. Kentucky Fried Movie.
Yeah.
Amazon Women on the Moon. There was a movie called Boob Tube. And there was Everything You Want to Know About Sex and We're Afraid to Ask, the Woody Allen movie.
Sure.
And they are all sort of like SNL sort of kind of things where they basically were vignette movies, right? And I thought this was going to be that, where each car, though, was its own vignette that was isolated from the rest of the things.
Right.
And you're right. For the first 50 minutes or so, 55 minutes.
Felt like it.
That's all it was. And then the attempted rape happened. And from that point forward, everything started to become intertwined.
Yeah.
I actually thought, too, and I really hate to say this, but, like, that's when the movie actually took off and became interesting to me.
It did. Well, because you can see what the gang wants to do, but they take so long and they pad it with so much of the other cars and the other stories, like mini stories they're trying to tell, that momentum goes nowhere, and you dismiss it as just these guys trying a thing. So in a way, I know that we start with these 6 characters, the 4 gang and the 2 couple.
Yeah.
But other than that, they start introducing people and following their stories enough that there is no central character. You just, we're back with the couple again, and we're back with the gang, but
we don't realize that they're actually
where this movie is going to go. What car is going to have the actual story start from it?
Yeah, like we didn't know the spine. It was like it took forever to figure out what the spine was.
There you go.
Which is a great metaphor because you know, with all those fat people in the movie, it's really hard to find their spine because they're so fat. Did I mention they were fat? Because
I don't know. Was it when they said fat?
Fat is bad. Fat is bad. The fat fast 4-hour diet where
they feast for 4
hours, shove their faces, and then fast for the other 20, which is actually really interesting because there's a big diet fad going on right now called intermittent fasting, which is supposed to help you cut body fat and help put on muscle, where you don't eat for about 12 or 13 hours.
That's stupid.
Maybe as much as like 16, and then you eat as much as you can heavy protein in 8 hours.
Okay.
And it's supposed to help drop body weight and put on muscle like crazy. Like it's basically what like The Rock does and like what other people do.
You know what I bet? In about 5 years, they're going to find out that that's incredibly unhealthy. Or less.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to, I mean, this is Diet Talk with AJ and Nick.
Yeah, right.
It goes back to the idea that this is how humans originally ate.
Like paleo and stuff?
Well, you would eat as much as you could.
Yeah.
And then
not know where your
next
food
meal
was
going to...
Yeah.
But it actually, though... I mean, you're probably right. We'll probably find out somewhere that it is completely unhealthy for you. But at least right now...
So are you saying the fat people were onto something?
Well, the thing is,
do you think they're supermodels now?
No, because the catch is, like, they did that thing with, like, fat people where, like, they each ate, like, a 4-foot sub.
Yeah, of course.
Like, they didn't eat pasta with their forks and knives. Like, they picked it up with their hands.
Like monsters.
And we're like, mom.
But that was another one of those touchstones where the Hard Rock Zombie footage came into, where there was that, if you remember from our last episode, it was juxtaposed with the little creepy gremlin type zombie eating himself at the table, which I don't know if not seeing Hard Rock Zombie would have made that make any more sense, but now I get why those interstitials were in that movie.
I actually, though, that was one of my favorite parts of Hard Rock Zombies, were those interstitials. I found those to be delightful and hysterical.
Fair.
So to see them in this movie was pretty interesting.
And the last interstitial ended the first movie. Remember that?
Which ended this movie, if I remember correctly. Like, the movie within the movie?
Yeah.
AJ, exactly. I'm going to just throw this out there right now because this was a question that I think you had asked while we were watching the movie, and I was like, you need to stop right now. Actually, first of all...
I'm sorry.
Before that, we need to talk about one of the best lines of the movie, which is, Hard Rock Zombies, what's it about? And then Midwest Elizabeth Moss said, I don't know, it's about zombies with hard rocks? Which...
Yeah, and that was to the old ladies.
Yes.
Remember? That was adorable.
That was such a weird moment. But anyways, do you remember what you asked me during the movie that sent us on a fucking spiral that I can't even handle?
What did I ask you? Because I tried to forget most of the things that happened in this movie.
You were like, wait, you looked at me and you were like, wait. So, if Hard Rock Zombies exists in this world, are we in the world of American Drive-In? And I was like, oh my God. Because in a way, we are.
Oh my God.
Like, that's the reality that we exist in.
Cool.
Like, we don't exist in the reality of Hard Rock Zombies.
Okay, well, that's good.
Because, I mean, well, that's a zombie of the wasteland. I mean,
exactly.
Part of that. And like Hitler's still alive in that timeline, and we really don't want to be a part of that. But yeah, so that was a weird moment where you asked that question. I was like, what the fuck is happening? What is happening? Man. Ah!
Here's the thing about this movie, and I know I always say that, but here's the thing. This movie is half cartoon and half really serious drama.
And it
does not balance itself well.
No.
Because,
literally, from one moment to the next.
I don't think you should pair those two things.
No.
Weird old person comedy and this horrible sexual assault.
Yeah.
That she is put through multiple times.
And that sexual assault paired with... So there's one sex scene in this movie. Well, there's a few scenes.
Yeah.
But one in particular that felt so real that I was really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, most sex scenes in movies are shot in such a way that it's, at worst, voyeuristic. I felt like the sex scene in this movie in the van with the daughter of the councilman and, like, that random dude.
Sure.
It felt more like I was sitting in the living room of this couple.
and they left their door open.
They were having sex, while I was sitting there. So it wasn't, like, voyeuristic in a way, and it wasn't, like, movie clean. It was like I was in the... Like, it's like I needed it. It was gross.
Yeah. Well, and the only thing that took me out of it is that they were having a discussion during it, kind of, like, about normal things.
Yeah.
About, like, hey, so how'd you get away from your father? It's like, you're having sex with this woman right now. Wait for the pillow talk.
Well, I think that
to discuss this shit.
Almost what made it, like, weirdly...
More real, or...?
More real. I don't know how to phrase this right, because it's, like...
More banal, kind of.
Well, I think maybe that's what it was.
It seemed... You know what it was? It wasn't overly acted. It wasn't like people... Because a lot of times, and it feels weird to say, but movie sex feels closer to porn than normal sex, doesn't it?
Yes. I think I see what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it seems over the top, and it seems like people slamming other people up against the wall and stuff like that.
And it's usually from, like, such a passionate moment that it, like,
yeah.
explodes, right? Like, we couldn't keep our hands off each other. And in this, she was just, like, literally, to be blunt about it, they were doing missionary, and then she was like, flip me over and do me harder. He flips her over and does her harder, and then he's like, why don't you get on top? She's riding him, and he's like, so how was your dad? And she's just like, yeah, I got away, Well, also, AJ, teach me how audio works, because this was a weird thing as well.
So one of the side stories of this that, again, doesn't really pay off, it's just one of these hijinks things. Audio dude, we've
never seen him before.
We've never seen him, never been introduced to him. He is walking around with headphones and a boom mic.
Yeah.
Not like a boom pole, just a boom mic.
Yeah.
And he goes over and he has these little inventions. I don't know what the hell he was doing. He hooks it onto their car.
Yep.
Where they're having sex. And he goes over to what looked like the main power line, but apparently is the cable...
Audio box?
Audio cable from the projection booth to all of the other speakers that are going to the cars.
And what's amazing about that box, too, was it was just a box. And, you know, the like the metal covering that they put over a wire.
Exactly.
So it doesn't get damaged.
Yeah.
It was just that metal covering coming
out of the box. On the outside of the building.
Yeah.
And so he hooks up something that looked like a wireless broadcaster. This was weirdly specific stuff.
It was like paper clipped, though, to the outside of the wire covering, like the metal covering of the wire box.
Yeah, so none of this obviously would have worked, but in practice, in what happened, it broadcast their sex sounds to every other car.
Which makes everyone horny.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone hears it and they're like, oh, yeah.
Sometimes you only see a couple of cars rocking at first, but then every single car is rocking. So don't come a-knocking.
Absolutely.
Is what I'm saying.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Except the councilman does. I don't want to go down every single one of these storylines because they don't really seem like they matter. But there's so many things, like the drug dealer old ladies.
Yeah.
Which is just awesome.
Weirdly have drugs in their car from
which
their
kind of pays off at the end. No, I don't think it was. I think they actually...
She said grand...
I know, she was trying to make...
You think that's what it was?
Those two old biddies were absolutely...
drug dealers?
Drug dealers, and they were just lying to that old man. Yeah, that was the only time he actually
interacted with anyone else, other than staring at the sex couple in the Porsche. So
why did he bring a book?
That's true. He was reading a book at... You know what? You're right. Look, if you are sitting here listening going, what are they talking about? They're hopping all over the place.
That's what
we're actually following the order of the movie more or less.
Yeah.
Oh, the thing that I was going to say, so the van couple who are sort of our leads,
Yeah.
there's some really interesting stuff that happens with them where, like he asks her, I think it's Jack and Bobby Ann. Jack says to Bobby Ann, I want to marry you. And she's like, fine, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
I guess. And then she gets angry. Like, then she's, like, really cold to him and really mean. For the next, like, 4 times we cut back to him, it's like,
yeah. I don't understand why he would ever have bought a ring for this girl. It feels like they've been on 2 dates.
Well, we find out why, and I actually thought this was fascinating-ish.
Sure.
But unclear, if that makes any sense. Because she eventually goes, this is how you can tell it was written by a man, I guess I'm being a bitch to you, aren't I? And he's like, yeah, you are.
Sure.
And then she's like, well, look, I feel like what you're doing is you've asked me to marry you.
To trap me.
So, to trap me, so I have to have sex with you even though I'm a virgin.
Yeah.
Which, that was the thing about this movie, is like, there were a few things about it that felt weirdly feminist. Like,
feminist moments.
Like, that's really hard to tell. Or, like,
overall, it felt...
Maybe I shouldn't say
misogynistic.
feminist. Yeah, well, that's the thing, is like, so misogynist, but there's really interesting moments of, like, women fighting against the misogyny.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the fellatio guy, it was eventually, like, his girlfriend won't give him head. And
that paid off eventually, but that was a long road to get there.
So uncomfortable. And, like,
Jesus
he kept
Christ.
forcing her.
Yeah.
And it was, like, it was gross. It was actually really gross. But eventually he's like, well, I'll find someone else who'll do it.
Goes to the prostitute.
And he goes to the prostitute, and she gives him... She goes down on him.
Yep.
He comes back to the car
and tries to make her jealous of him.
And she's like, I don't care, it's fine. And he's like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, let me ask you a question. Will you go down on me? And he's like, no, it's different for men and women. And she just opens her car door and she goes, all right, well, if you won't do it, I'll find someone who will. And then she just goes looking for
like
a guy
an itch to scratch.
And I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was... Well, there are a couple of empowering moments, and maybe we're just looking at this from a 2019 perspective.
Which we kind of have to, in a way.
Of course we do. But if you look at the other movies at the time, I don't think many more were more or less progressive than this.
I think you're right.
So I suppose it feels like Porky's. It feels like some sort of...
Feels Revenge of the Nerds, American Graffiti. It even feels like Death Wish with, like, the... uncomfortableness around how rape is used in those movies.
Yeah, although, I gotta say, way more uncomfortable in this one.
Yeah, that was actually...
And showed less.
Yes.
For God's sake.
There was no nudity in the rapes. Well, first of all, to be clear, it was ever only... the way I said that made it sound like I'm okaying something, which I'm not trying to okay something.
No, I get you.
But there was never an actual rape as much as... Well, you know what? Nope, I take that back, because the forced fellatio in and of itself is.
Absolutely.
But in the section where the van couple and the 4 thug baddies, whatever they are... When they approach her, they only attempt. And that scene,
they touch her and they're
it was
horrible to her. They hold her down.
It was horrible. It was actually one of the most, like, I don't know how to phrase this right, because no matter what, it's going to come off terrible, but, like, every scene like that makes me uncomfortable. This might have been the most squirmy and uncomfortable I'd ever been watching a scene like this, because it was so real. It was just like that sex scene where, like, I felt like I was watching a couple have sex in my living room.
If we can say something about this movie, the guys act very well as skeevy, awful people.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know if it says something about their acting or their personalities, but
it was weird.
I believed it was like a sexual assault in Greece.
Well,
you know what I mean?
It's funny that you say that, because through half the movie, they are, like, really bad knockoffs of the T-Birds in Greece.
Yes.
Where it's like someone's doing a bad Travolta and someone's doing a bad Kanicki.
Yeah. And
then when it becomes serious, it is, like, so deadly serious that...
It's out of left field, man.
Yeah.
If you were coming in here for a fun romp, that is not the thesis of this movie.
And the first 45 minutes of it is a fun romp.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I mean...
Fun is a big... We'll put big...
Let's say social commentary. Fun, like, light social commentary at best for that time period. it turns a frickin' corner. It
Yeah.
goes completely 180 while still sprinkling in these weird bits.
Well, though, now that we're talking about it, there was the scene with Midwest Elizabeth Moss.
Sure.
When the
that's
T-Birds
right.
come in and they're like, hey, you're going to let us in, mama.
Yeah.
You're going to let us in. Like, that scene actually was chilling.
It was.
It was actually chilling in a weird way because they don't just rob her.
Mm-hmm.
They come in and they're like, look, you can either let us in for free or we'll destroy your drive-in. And she's like, fine, you can go in for free. Eventually.
Yeah.
And then they're like, why don't you give us $10 so we can buy some popcorn and stuff? And she's like, no. What, are you going to rob me? And he was like, no, mama.
I'll rip the speakers off of the...
Well, before that, which I thought was actually really creepy. Like, it was actually even worse because before he was like, well, that's what he said before. He was like, no, mama, if I was robbing you, I would take all the money and blow your fucking head off. And your brains would be sprayed across this entire place.
Yeah, so I guess that should have given us a... Well, that was our first clue. But these incidents were so spread out through the movie that you couldn't really ever get a footing.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a great way of putting it, because there was no footing. No. And to the point where, like, at the end of the movie, Bobby Ann, who was near... like, so what happens is she's assaulted.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend comes to save her.
Right. And then he gets beat out.
They beat the fuck out of him. And it is... Again, that's another scene that was
he ends up in the hospital.
Yeah.
Which... Did she drive him?
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
She drove him to the hospital. And then, after she drops him off at the hospital, she goes home, she gets a gun. Her dad says, where are you going? And she goes, to the movies, Daddy. I'm going to the movies.
That was chilling, too.
Which was chilling.
Yeah.
Because then the end of the movie is she basically forcefully gets all four of the, like, T-Bird characters into
the kids' play area.
In front of the drive-in screen.
And then Audio Dude hooks her up with a lapel mic. That was so weird,
man.
And
then she basically is like, I'm going to execute all four of these motherfuckers.
Unless they fight it out.
It's almost like fight it out.
It's almost like that Joker scene in Dark Knight.
Right.
Where he's like, we only have room for a few, so you'll have to fight it out.
And then they fight it out, and she's like, if you fight it out, I'll only kill the one who's left in here.
Yeah.
The entire crowd watches this, gets on board, and then they're like cheering for a fucking execution right in front of them. And eventually, like, of course it doesn't happen, yada, da, da, da. But like, that whole section, I was like, what is happening here?
Well, it turns Mad Max, man.
It really does.
Like, and we actually skipped over the fact that when the T-Birds all try to get away after she has threatened them the first time, they all jump in their cars. And something that had happened way earlier in the movie was one of the T-Bird dudes runs over the local kid's bike.
Yep.
There are 3 kids who hang out at this movie at the drive-in, probably local neighbors or something like that.
Little street urchins.
Yeah, exactly. Street rat.
Yeah.
And they run over one of his bikes. Well, they find this spool of like airplane
wire,
cable or whatever, and they, instead of just tying up the bad guys, they tie every single one of these cables to every car in the place, just like little anarchists.
So when they start driving away,
it starts pulling the other cars in different ways, which apparently, in a domino effect, causes all of these other cars to start driving around. I don't know why everybody started their cars.
I don't know either.
But they get freaked out. It turns into what we realized was a callback to one of the very first lines.
It was so good.
At the very beginning, the gang drives in and the projectionist yells, "What are you doing in there? This isn't the demolition derby."
Right.
And by the end of it, the whole place looks like the demolition derby. People are flipping over each other's cars. It's flying off ramps, which I don't know where the ramps came from. But just people are ending up in other cars.
I just kept screaming.
Insane.
This was one of those moments where, and I'm really a observant viewer. I watch movies really well. I know what's happening. Like, I don't mean to say that. Well, I was gonna say, like, I don't mean to say that like an asshole bragger, but like, I'm pretty good about those kinds of things.
You're the well actually guy.
I really am. Like, that's the funny part, is I connected to him a lot. So like, it's really rare for me to start screaming, "What the fuck is happening?" repeatedly. And when all of that stuff, like when all those cars just started going and like crashing into each other, I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck is happening?
The reason why is poor visual storytelling.
That's exactly right.
What happened, I'm assuming, is that they didn't have the copper wire, the airplane
Whatever
wire,
it was,
to tie up all of the cars, and they couldn't actually practically do all the stunts they did.
Yes.
With
the cars tied together.
With the inserts and all this stuff. So what they showed to tell you what was going on is one wire to tighten when the first asshole tries to drive away.
Yeah.
It tightens, and as he's trying to get away, and as all the other T-Birds are trying to drive away, it tightens and then snaps, and then all chaos ensues.
That's right.
Which
and then,
is so confusing.
It was so confusing. And you were the one who actually pointed out to me that you were like, oh, all the cars were tied together.
Yeah.
And once you pointed that out, I was like, oh, now it all makes sense.
But it is, if you missed one of those tiny vignette scenes, you would have missed the kids underneath one of the non-T-Bird cars, which I realized, I was like, wait, are they tying? Oh my God, they're tying everything together just to see chaos.
Yeah.
Which is funny because in West Germany, this had a release, and it was called Nichts als Sex und Chaos, which means nothing but sex and chaos.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. I love it. That is amazing.
In Uruguay, it was called Esa Loco Atocina Americano.
So I don't speak Spanish or Uruguayan. I don't know. But that's what? Crazy car movie America.
Americans. Yeah, I would assume. So that's pretty...
I'm actually going to read you the Finnish title.
Oh, please.
In Finland, this was called American Drive-In.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then Spain shortened it to Atocina Americano.
Atocina Americano.
Which is pretty standard.
Yeah.
Pretty standard. I like it. Can we talk about the most heart-wrenching scene?
The moment that this movie...
The heartwarming scene.
I almost cried at that moment. It was so beautiful. And actually, can we just give so much credit? So, Phil Fondacaro.
Yes.
Who was the person who was in both this movie and Hard Rock Zombies. The little person.
Yes.
You probably have known, he was in Willow, he was in Return of the Jedi, he was in the Garbage Pail Kids movie.
Sure.
He was in Troll, he was in Ghoulies 2.
He had a fairly big career.
He was in Invaders from Mars, which is another canon film we'll eventually watch, directed by Tobe Hooper.
Nice.
He keeps watching himself, and he's just like, every time he's on screen, there's just this sort of like tinge sadness of him being like, oh, I stole that scene. I was so good there. I was so good there. He gets up to the concession stand, and he goes to buy a small popcorn, and the person working the concession stand is like, hey, my sister is so appreciative of the autograph that you gave her.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh my God, really? Like, that makes me so happy. I'm just so excited. And she says, that'll be 50 cents.
Mm-hmm. And he sorts through the change in his hand, and he's like, you know what? I guess I lost the taste for popcorn.
Yeah, clearly he just doesn't have enough money. He's just a poor, out-of-work actor. And as he starts walking away, the woman takes $1 out of her pocket, throws it on the ground, and says, his character's name was Rocky. She was like, Rocky, you dropped the $1 out of your pocket. And he turns around and he looks at it and he goes, that's my dollar? And she's like, yeah. And he was like, that fell out of my pocket? And she was like, yeah, it is. And he was like, oh, okay. So he walks back, and she goes, well, I mean, you might get a taste for popcorn later. And
he agrees with her.
He's like, I might.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and buy that popcorn.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if you caught this, which I thought was another just an added beautiful moment.
Keep the change?
He says, keep the change to her.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this was one of those things where, like, he knew what she did, or if he was just trying to be magnanimous.
I like to think that he was kind of accepting where he was almost in that spot. And then the last shot of that scene is him in the reflection of the cash register.
Yes.
You see that?
Yeah.
Ugh.
It was just it was one of those, like, that moment was, like, I feel myself, like, half tearing up.
Oh, me too.
Talking about it. 'Cause it was just such a beautiful, like, in this movie, filled with all of this horrible, terrible, awful shit, was just this moment of, like, pure human kindness.
that was the redeeming scene in this entire movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was great. He's one of those actors where I have started to notice him more and more and more.
Yeah.
And I really, just like through Troll and through Ghoulies 2, which might be movies where you're like, really, Nick, are you fucking serious? But he is so genuine and he is so real, even in those movies, that like, I really like him. I really like him as an actor.
I think this was his movie, honestly. Like, if you look at everyone acting in this movie, I think the purest would probably be him and the ticket taker.
Yeah, the ticket taker was great too.
Honestly, like, everyone is either a cartoon or a villain or a cartoon villain, you know what I mean? Or just an awful person. And even, like, I gotta say, even the awful people are too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, can we talk about the handshake thing that the
weird,
the gang does?
Which was like, they would like Rochambeau 3 times, like 1, 2, 3.
And then do the curly
curly thing. That's the best way to describe it, right?
I would say so.
And it was
so off-putting.
Well,
because of the context.
I was gonna say, especially because when they used it, it was always like, "Oh, girl, you know what we love to do? We love to rape." Whoop, 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 whoop. And we'd be like,
yeah.
Ugh!
It was like a bastardization of, I mean, everything that we hold dear.
Yeah.
Just,
it was so...
Yeah, I got... This is a fascinating movie just to watch and try to break down, but I don't know what merit there is to it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is like...
You know?
When we start thinking about things like, is there... anything. I mean, it's not a canon film, so we don't necessarily need to look for canon.
No, of course.
But, like, is there a canon fodder thing that, like, something that we can take away?
Yeah.
And I think this is a perfect movie in
what?
that... Yeah, this is a perfect movie.
I don't think ever...
The end. That's all. How do I phrase this? There's 2 lines in this movie that I think I want to hit, because I think both of them sort of encapsulate this movie perfectly. The first is... Actually... Now that I think about it, both of them came from the Projectionist.
Okay.
And the Projectionist...
We didn't even talk about that dude.
I know, that guy
Holy
was
shit.
insane.
He's drunk. He names the projectors.
He talks to them like they're ladies.
Yep. One's Helen.
Yeah.
Which was awesome.
So weird.
I mean, that Jewish Peter Falk was...
That's exactly what he was. He was like
hilarious.
Jewish Peter Falk. No, he wasn't. He was embarrassing.
Yes. That's true.
But as he's watching the movie... Within the movie, he says, the people who wrote this should be shot. And I was like,
yeah.
Ironically, they also wrote American Drive-In.
Yeah.
Because, and I was like, and you know what?
Yep.
They should be shot.
Check.
And what I was going to say is, so what can we take away from this movie? Well, first of all, I think that moment with the actor and the dollar was just...
beautiful.
Like, you can really do some, like, incredibly beautiful... heartfelt moments like that, and you can find the humanity, and there's something about finding the humanity in a movie like this that I thought was really useful.
Yeah.
And then I think the other line that the projectionist says feels like it sums up our entire podcast.
What's that?
Where at the end he says, sometimes even the worst movies are better than real life.
Oh.
And there's a moment in that where I was like... And what's interesting is because all of the horrible, shitty thing that happened to so many of these characters, I'm sure all of them would have rather watched Hard Rock Zombies than deal with the trauma that they've experienced.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, really, when you think about it, nothing good happens to anybody in this movie.
No.
I think everything is terrible.
Everybody's, like, humiliated or
their car's
hurt
destroyed or they're assaulted physically or emotionally.
The kids are fine. The kids get away with
That's
everything.
true, I guess. The kids are fine.
Oh, no, they got run over by...
their bikes got run over by a car.
Yeah.
And I think there's something true about this idea that... And I think this is why I love bad movies. Is
What's
like...
that?
And not even bad, because like a lot of the stuff we watch with canon isn't what I would call bad.
It's flawed, perhaps?
There are flaws. There's like that outsider art kind of a thing going on. It's a rush job. But I gotta say, like... I mean, going back to this movie... Who would have thought that if I told you an hour into this movie, AJ, I know you're hating every moment of this right now, but in about 3 minutes, there's going to be a moment that happens where you're going to be moved to near tears. What would you have said to me?
bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. But that moment was just so beautiful. And like, in this entire crap fest that runs 90 minutes, there's a minute and a half of just pure humanity. It was gorgeous. It was moving. It was everything that is good about film. And even in this worst movie, that moment was better than anything in real life because it was kind and lovely and amazing. And I think that, to me, is why I do this podcast. It's why I like movies like this.
You say it's kind, and I'm not plugging anybody, but I always loved Patton Oswalt's statement that was his wife's, his deceased wife's statement of, "It's chaos, be kind."
It's chaos, be kind.
And these people, funny enough, it is all chaos.
Yeah.
In the whole thing,
well,
but
literally
it's also
the German version of the movie uses the word chaos in its title.
Yes, and I think that life is chaos, and making a movie is chaos.
Yeah.
And if you can find that kindness in the chaos, then you have achieved something.
Something golden.
I know that we don't normally say, how could we improve this movie? Or maybe we do. I don't know. We're know-it-alls.
I know how to improve everything.
We take a lot of liberties.
To be clear, when I said that, I was rolling my eyes. I just want to...
nobody saw that. I'm going to edit that out.
It.
So I looked at this movie, and I saw that there was... All right, we normally in, say, a Love Actually, like I gave at the beginning, there's not as much chaff as this had. There were so many red herrings and different tiny things that you could have actually possibly made a decent movie out of this if you had smoothed out the tone.
Yeah.
If you had cut a few of the storylines. But funny enough, seeing the councilman get up there, I thought that he was going to actually... He and the boyfriend were almost going to tag team a solution with Barbie Ann. Barbara Ann?
Bobby Ann. Bobby Ann.
She's standing up there, and it's a ludicrous situation. She is in front of a movie screen with a gun, ready to kill a guy with basically a Roman Colosseum of idiots around cheering for his death. It's actually, in a surrealist way, kind of a perfect setup for some sort of high-minded resolution.
Yeah.
And they just did none of that.
And this was the thing about the movie that was so weird. Is like, I actually weirdly bought that, considering the trauma she went through that night.
Yes.
I bought the reality of her standing in front of, like, going after those guys with a gun.
Totally.
Humiliating them.
Yeah.
What I did not buy was the weird cartoonish everyone being like, yeah, shoot the motherfuckers.
No, I think everyone would have been like, what is going on?
Yeah.
This is insane. Like, I'll come over and watch it, but this is crazy. And so, because we're humans and we love a train wreck. But I thought that the guy who had just had his life destroyed by a news report of him trying to take down drug dealers and then accidentally sleeping with the prostitute, sure, could have had work 10 more hours on that script. I swear to God, you could find something that ties his story of hubris and attempting to bring something down, tie that to her existence, right?
Yeah.
Then the boyfriend is actually worthless. She's the hero in this.
Really, she should be.
And he can just say, Bobby Ann, don't do it, from downstairs, which he should have. You said that.
That was such a weird moment that he climbs all the way to the top of this, like... Yeah, because he has just woken up from like a practically a coma.
Honestly, in a better movie, he would have been watching her on TV because they already had a news.
That's true, a news chopper
there, and like turn back around, whatever.
God, AJ,
right?
You're fixing
Think about
huge
all of this.
Of this movie.
And honestly, then she's like, "No, I can't. I have to. And then the way it's all set up, it should have been Midwestern Elizabeth Moss.
Totally.
Somehow finding a way to tie it all together, to not just handing them flowers at the end, make her the hero of the whole thing, because she runs it all.
Not only
and
that,
maybe she could,
out of everyone else in the movie, she's the only one who had such a run-in with those guys.
Yes.
That her life was put into danger.
Exactly. So have her speak to her and say, listen, and somehow tie in the fact, because we've been sharing all this time with all these people, say, listen, all of these people are here to come together as humanity. And there are bad parts of humanity right there. But there are good parts of humanity here.
Just look around.
The entire time, panning across all these people that we've met and struggled through with their shitty lives.
And they're holding hands, or they're reaching out for
like
her.
even the shitty couple gets
the fellatio couple?
I don't know, one of the couples that's shitty. Like, I don't know, the well actually couple.
Okay.
They're finally, all of these had very simple and separated resolutions.
Yeah.
And I think that you could have made something so beautiful had you spent a little bit more time on this script.
I'm half wondering if what they did was they started to try to make, like, because again, it almost feels like a tale of two different movies, where the first half,
or 20 as we
found
out.
Yeah. But I was gonna say, even like the first half has that like Kentucky Fried Movie tradition going on.
Yeah.
Or like what was that movie called?
Movie 43,
which was terrible. Don't waste your lives watching
bad.
it. But
real bad.
Where it felt like the first half was like that they were going to do that, and then they were like, oh, you know what, these should, because
Throw
they're not
in some
actually
stakes.
separate vignettes, they all take place at the same drive-in.
How do we tie it all together?
It doesn't work that same exact way. Yeah, and so how do we tie this together? And it does not coalesce in a way that is useful.
There's the Goofy movie, and then there is not the Goofy movie.
Yeah,
but
then there's Goofy's Extreme movie sequel.
There's a Goofy, the silly movie with this really dark overtone of a horrible struggle and revenge flick that just
weird.
Does not fit.
Yeah, it's a weird movie.
But you could make it fit weirdly.
Could totally do it.
If you properly change the tone in the middle, like have it be like reaching a crescendo eventually, and then just be like, where the fuck did this come from? But then make everything that.
Yeah.
Not just keep cutting back to the old ladies and the fat people and the silly know-it-all, where it takes you out of that struggle, but start making everything turn.
Can I ask a question?
What's that?
Did we like this movie?
I think I did, actually. No, I like the potential of this movie.
I think so, too.
I like the potential of this movie.
It's weird because the more
this one?
Oh, make this our canon film?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Work in all of the things from canon into this strangely potential-filled movie.
Interesting.
Maybe?
Maybe that's the way we go.
I don't know. We've said this about many movies before.
Yeah.
We've said this about X-Ray.
Yes.
We've said this about a couple things where we say, "Oh, that's the one I want." We should make a list of these things.
Maybe we'll have a retrospective episode,
perhaps,
that connects them all together. Yeah, this movie. Yeah, it's interesting because I really did not like this movie, like huge parts of this movie watching it.
There are really bad parts of this.
But the more we're talking about it, the more I'm remembering the thing. I mean, I guess this is like a bad relationship, right? Where it's like, in the relationship, you're like...
Do we have Stockholm Syndrome?
I think maybe that's... Actually, I was going to say, like, the whole relationship is terrible while you're in it. And then once you break up 2 weeks later, you look back and you're like,
glasses.
You know what? She did have this, and he did have that. And this was, like, a lovely, and they had this. And,
oh, God.
Oh, you know what? I missed them. And then someone reminds you, like, you do remember XYZ, and you're like,
yeah,
that's right. I broke up with them
that
for a reason.
stupid hand thing that they did. Yeah, I hated that.
Yeah. And that's
not the worst thing at all.
No, that's not the worst, but it's close. I mean, like, amongst everything else, it's just so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the more we talk about this, the more I actually like sections.
This has very rough edges to it.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
It
is. Really is a goddamn mess. Yes. But they spent $10 million on it, man.
That's what it says.
Remember?
I don't understand.
Where
I did not
it
see
go?
a penny of that on the screen.
Did they... I mean, honestly...
I guess destroying all those cars. They did have to destroy like 40
you're
cars.
right. No, we did question that before the car crashes.
Yes, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that is... I mean, and probably renting that place, because that was a real drive-in, obviously.
Yes.
Obviously, they didn't build it. That was Sky Drive-In, which, what was
Yucca
it called?
Valley.
Circuit City? Something like that?
I think it was just called City Drive.
City Drive, yeah. Yucca Valley, California, and it was shot in 1983. It didn't come out until 85. We didn't find almost anything on this movie.
Is like,
but
it doesn't exist.
I'm really curious if this was shown in drive-in theaters, because that would be a very odd...
Oh my god, what if it was shown in drive-in theaters?
Yeah.
And the other movie that it was shown with was...
Hard Rock Zombies. Or Hard Ock Zombies.
Hard Ock Zombies.
They've lost their R.
Oh my god. That was actually, like,
Yeah.
that was the weird thing is, like, some of the attention to detail is really lovely. Like, hard rock zombies at the drive-in, the R fell off, so it was hard rock zombies. Like, that's the weird thing about this movie is it's like, I think there are interesting lessons to learn.
Yeah.
Also, it is a fucking mess.
And monstrous.
Not
just because of the zombies.
Right, right.
But because of the living. That's what we learn in most zombie movies, is the living are as bad as the dead.
The living are worse than the dead.
It's true.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
I think so, too.
I really think we're done with all of this.
Holy shit.
Oh, God. I'm glad we don't do rating systems. I could not do that. I have no idea what I would give this.
Well, I think that's the thing that, look, I know we're talking about our podcast.
Yeah.
So it's really weird for me to be like, that's the thing I like about our podcast. But I'm going to say, I think that's the thing I like about our podcast is we just talk about the movies for both what is good and bad about them.
Yeah.
And as far as, like, the rating is concerned, it doesn't matter because what I'm hoping is that people will watch this movie and they might have thoughts of their own, good or bad.
Yeah.
And engage, right? Because I think that's the thing, too, that I love about these kinds of movies is it'd be really easy to be like, it's terrible, don't watch it.
Right.
But is that really fair to anyone? Because if that's what I said, you would miss out on that one moment, which is probably more pure than a lot of other movies I've seen in theaters recently.
Totally.
And I think that's the thing that I enjoy, hopefully, and that's what people enjoy about what we do, is they're not coming for us for thumbs up or thumbs down.
Right.
They're coming to us for
an analysis.
Maybe and an overall understanding of what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much it, and we hope you
enjoyed our premiere episode of Cannon Fodder.
That's right.
The premiere of Cannon Fodder.
We're clever like that.
Yeah.
Cannon Fodder. All right, my dude, what is next on the Creating Canon?
Next week, we are going for a classic subgenre of exploitation film.
Oh, fun.
Women in prison.
Oh.
Yep, we're doing a women in prison film called The Naked Cage.
The Naked Cage.
Yeah.
I assume we're going to see boobs.
Well, if the cage has boobs...
The physical cage.
Yeah. No.
Oh, because the cage is going to be naked.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Without all the finish on it.
Yes. Or it could be about Nick Cage. Naked.
Oh.
Which also, I would...
Is that something you want to see?
I'd check out those bees. The bee bites, those bees. Bees. Ah.
The bees!
Did I ever tell you that I once went to Nicolas Cage's future tomb?
And did he yell at you?
No. He wasn't living there.
In New Orleans?
In New Orleans. Cemetery 1 in New Orleans. It's a white pyramid. Nicolas Cage's future tomb.
Nowhere near ostentatious enough for Nicolas Cage.
Nowhere near Austin Powers enough for Mike Myers.
That either.
So anyways, join us next week for The Naked Cage. So if people want to get in touch with us, AJ?
Yes, sir. If you want to get in touch with us, you can go to creatingcanon@gmail.com. That's canon with 2 N's. Technically 3. I know, I fuck this up all the time.
It makes me laugh every single time, too.
I know. CANNON. And you can follow us on all the socials at Creating Canon, spelled the exact same way. You found this podcast. You know how to spell it. You are a smart human being. And we hope you smart human beings come back and join us next time.
Doggone it, people.
We do. Yeah. And so, what do we say?
We say
good night and good canon.
How did we end up recording so long about this stupid fucking movie?
Didn't we fucking say? It is funny to listen to the banter back and forth. What's funny about the behind the scenes? Sometimes nothing.
My name's Mike. Come here.
I only have one arm, but it's super big.
American Drive-In.